The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests, and are not those of Pesmo Radio, its employees or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements of any radio show programs or products mentioned on air, on our website, social media accounts, and marketing materials. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to Pesmo Radio, its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing Pesmo Radio.
Are you a songwriter? Are you looking to turn your songwriting passion into a full-time gig? Whether you are just at the start of your songwriting journey or a seasoned industry professional, this show is made for you. Welcome to the Songwriter Show, bringing together songwriting news, interviews, and community. Now, welcome your host, Sarantos.
Thank you for tuning in, and welcome back to the Songwriter Show. I'm your host, Sarantos. I'm a solo music artist who's been writing lyrics for as long as I can remember. Words are very important to me, and that's why I'm especially thrilled to host this show for you every Tuesday evening. I believe that every song is a story. The Songwriter Show is broadcast live on #1 ranked Pesmo Radio and has listeners in all 26 countries in the world and every state in the U.S. The station is licensed with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and Sound Exchange, and has partnerships throughout the music industry, including iHeartRadio and exposure to over 300 million listeners. Tonight's first and only guest is Michael Jones. Michael is a visionary artist from the United States. An internationally published poet and singer-songwriter, Michael focuses on the marriage of sounds and words in his expression of fundamental human concepts.
And now, welcome this week's special guest.
Welcome to the show, Michael. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm absolutely honored to be here, and thanks for having me. Doing really well.
We're very honored to have you, my friend. You have a really cool story, and I figured we'd have a natural, organic conversation, but tell me how this all started for you. How'd you start going down this path?
Well, I know you don't want me to talk forever, so just feel free to cut me off at any time, because when I get wound up, I can keep going. So I love stories. So it's kind of strange. I was born with an attraction to words, like from a very, very young age. And I sort of had, sort of a lyrical nature about the way I wrote, even at a young age, sort of naturally inside of me. But, I never really found a mentor to take me anywhere with it. But I did win a lot of poetry contests and things like that. But I got attention for it. But then as life went on, and as life does, I was on the track to really wanting to become a writer, and I ended up having a child young, my daughter, Madeline, who's wonderful. And I really put my focus into, raising her as a single father for a long time. And I spent all my time doing that, and I kind of put the writing to the side for a decade. And I came back. During that decade, I got involved in entrepreneurship and ended up sort of accidentally building a pretty sizable technology company, exiting it, but always having my heart back in writing and in music and in poetry. And I finally was able to get back to it when I left my job, and when this really sort of happened right before this whole COVID moment occurred here. And over the last year and a half or so, I've really gotten back into it and focused on it with all my heart and soul and sweat and blood and all of that. And it's really been a transformational sort of experience for me as a human being, to finally find sort of the track that I should have been on a long time ago. Not should have been, but, was sort of destined to be, I feel, because it's the only thing I feel I'm, really world class at. So I went through this crazy journey, circled back to it, and here I am, finishing this album. I published a full-length poetry book a couple of months ago, and I've just been sort of a creative explosion, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, that's wonderful, man. And you know what? In this show, I always tell people, it doesn't matter how you got to where you are. Some of us are, stars at 12 or 18, and some of us are older, and I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Especially today, especially nowadays, it doesn't matter. Not everybody needs to be in a boy band or needs to,
God, no.
Yeah, make it when they're young. I think there's a niche for all of us.
There is, and I think, if you have something legitimate to say, and if you sing with authenticity, and from your voice, that's what I tell people. I think everybody has a voice, and if you find it, you can be you can perform if you put your heart and soul into it, and if you can combine those things, it doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah. When I look at your story, it's very similar to my story in that it's all about words. So it's fascinating to talk to someone like you who's all about the words, and you write poetry and you write songs. I started when I was young, and I obviously never took lessons when I was in grammar school, and I kind of learned through the years the correct way to songwrite, and I'm sure you've done the same thing.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's funny. I left a lot out, obviously, in my quick summary there in that story before, just to keep it brief. But I studied literature. I was an English major. I studied creative writing. I always wanted to write fiction and poetry and whatnot. So I wanted to be a professor at one point. So I always had this deep relationship with words, and the way I think about it now is that, words are part of the equation, because words, I think, sort of, they sort of bring in the rational mind, and they kind of, bathe over the brain and sort of, trigger certain images. But, ultimately to experience words and meaning, I think sound coming in with those words and the right combination of those two things creates a magic that I think it just really, it's something that human beings can just, intimately and quickly understand that it's this is beautiful, or this is this is something that I want to experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot for just a second. If you could only pick one thing to do, would it be poetry, fiction, songwriting?
Music, songwriting.
Okay.
Not even close. Yeah, it's not even close. To me, I love poetry, but you have to apply at some level, I think, the world that you live in today, right? And poetry is consumed in such a small niche, and there are some poets that have broken through, mainly on Instagram. A few, Atticus and others, that have a pretty sizable following in the millions, but that's more sort of hallmarky kind of poetry. Anything that's got an edge to it, things like that, it's a pretty niche readership. If you want to say something, if you want to get ideas out there, if you want to impact people, I think the modern consumer, the modern human being, is just more open to music and songs, and I think that's important to pay attention to.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think to take it a step further, when you put words on a paper, it's the combination of the music to it and the prosody, really, that is so difficult and challenging. You could take words alone, music alone, but to put them together is really where you get that prosody and that really special relationship that moves people.
So you say prosody, I say magic.
Yeah.
It's just a word I use because I don't think there's any way to describe exactly what we're talking about here. But it's people ask me. I find that the question I get asked most often from people is, "Do you write the words or the music first?" And I always say I write them at the same time.
Yeah.
And for me, I couldn't imagine any other way to at least to reach the quality songs that I would publish. I could put lyrics to other sound, but there's something very special about creating both at the same time.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with that. Any teachers you want to shout out about that you've had yourself that kind of got you to this point in your life?
I've had some amazing teachers. The teachers that I remember along my sort of educational journey, and not just in music or in writing, but just in general, are the ones that, for whatever reason took a singled out interest in something I did, and then helped me nurture it, even if it was just a little bit. I remember a couple of teachers that really got me interested in literature when I was in high school and really changed my life in such a big way around my sophomore year. And I remember, some others that had a focus on things like creative writing and really pushed me to write additional poetry. So I remember those types of people. In music, it's been more colleagues. I was in the theater for a long time, up through college and whatnot. So I performed a lot on stage and live performance. And some of the friends I've had there have been just musical inspirations to me as well. They've been in successful bands. They've been in successful, on Broadway, in Hollywood, things like that. So I have a lot of inspiration sort of from people in my network and people I've known, if that makes any sense. And then, of course, the great songwriters of history, like Bob Dylan, people like that. They're the best teachers, I think.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I've had a few people on the show that are into theater and performing. I think you have a huge advantage, especially when it comes to live performance. What do you think? Advantage, disadvantage? What are your feelings about
I think
that?
I don't think it's even debatable. That is, I always call that like that's like the last horizon for performance art is, having the stones or the courage or whatever it is to do it live in front of others, without a net and all that good stuff. And the theater teaches you that in such an intense way. I think even more intense than music performance, to be honest with you, because, you're interacting with other people. And they're fallible. They make mistakes. They forget lines. You got to react on your feet to others and be creative on the spot. And you got a whole audience watching you. So I think that is a really great discipline for performance in music later. Yeah, huge advantage.
Yeah. I was going to ask you how you handle mistakes during a performance too, but you kind of answered that already.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, I think I think you laugh at yourself, because perfection's not achievable by anyone and anything, but that's what we all strive for, right?
Yeah.
You laugh at yourself and you put a little humanity in what you're doing, and it becomes endearing instead of embarrassing,
Yeah. The other thing I've realized as I've gone from just winging it and, I love this, I want to do it, to 7 years later, all the lessons and things I've learned, people don't know that you necessarily messed up if you miss a certain beat or you miss a certain. So I think if you just learn to kind of roll with it, most people, they feel the magic, they understand, hey, this makes me feel good, this sounds good. But the little mistakes that we kind of nitpick about, most people never even know that happened.
No, in a live performance especially. It becomes obviously a little more tricky when you're doing studio work and you are trying to get at least to some close level of sounding perfection, right?
Yeah.
But when you're talking about a live performance, we're so hard on ourselves with things like that, and our ears are brutal on us, but most people don't even know it happened.
Yeah. The studio stuff, you're right. You said earlier about the net and auto tune, and you can do 100 comps, but the hardest thing when you're editing and producing and mixing this stuff is I always like to leave a little bit of the authenticity or part of a song where you're like, I'm going to do a really big slide here. And you do things on purpose, and it's hard to tell. Half the things people love, half of them they hate. They're like, that sounds like. So it's really hard when you don't have a big label and these world-class producers telling you, listen, you tried 20 things there. They all sound like garbage. That's the hardest part between being indie and being a true signed to a label professional with a couple $1 million marketing budgets for a song. That's what I feel anyway.
No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. So in such a situation, all you can do is work with what you have, right? And what we have now is pretty impressive. The marketing thing is really tough to compete with. So that I'll just put in a different bucket. But as it relates to making music, there's lots of ways to get feedback now from people that are smart, maybe even smarter than the people that would have been in that room with you telling it was garbage. So I think there's a way to approach it where you can still create and work an unbelievable craft with the sound and the music. But you ultimately have to make music that you like, right? Because I don't care how good a song is. It doesn't matter. Go on YouTube and, pull up Blowing in the Wind, and there's thousands of people with thumbs down on it. Yeah. So,
That's true.
So, what do you even say? It's Let It Be has the same thing. Are you kidding me? So whatever.
Well, it's always interesting. I review my stuff on Reverb Nation, which bought out Audio Kite to try to get a sense for what people think about it. And it's interesting because yeah, if you're in the 70th percentile, you're basically in the 100th percentile.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to get like 70% of people to like a song.
It's incredible. I mean, it rarely happens.
Absolutely.
You know, especially when you go out. You know, we all live in our little echo chambers, you know, with our friends and stuff. So, you know, I think we tend to convince ourselves that everyone likes this certain sound. But when you really go outside of that, to people you don't interact with on a daily basis that come from different cultural backgrounds, different areas, I mean, they may think it's just horrible.
Do you have a resource? You talked earlier, since we're indie artists, a website, reviews, you know, any resources you want to share with the audience?
Well, I mean, I've had when I sort of decided to dedicate like my life to making music and to writing songs, you know, I did spend a lot of time going deep. I'm actually an attorney, so I went to Villanova Law School. I practiced law for 2 years before I got into the internet world. So learned a lot about research. Learned a lot about going deep into different subject matter, and I think, you know, I've come up with a pretty good list of sites. I think that if you use them right, are incredible. Sound Better has been an unbelievable site for me. Yeah, you know, site. I think I just love that site. There's a smaller site where you can work directly with musicians. That's sort of, you know, a similar model, but it's I'll call it more startup. They've got different features. It's a little on the lower cost side. If you want to do some quick work on something, it's called Tunedly. I don't know if you've ever been on it.
Yeah, that's a good site. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who started that. Was it Chris? Yeah, I know what site you're talking about.
I really have had a wonderful experience doing some different work with them. You know, so those would be the ones off the top. I think that are special. If I can think of anything else, I'll put it out there. But I highly recommend both of those.
Yeah.
You know.
So we have our first caller. Victoria's asking about what instruments you play.
Well, primarily I'm a vocalist, and I write all my material and all my, you know, all the music, the melody. I play the guitar, but I don't play the guitar on all my songs. I'm not, to be honest, not, you know, skilled enough for what sound I'm looking for. So I have a friend from Portugal actually that I work with, who's just incredible. And I've used some other studio musicians to fill in that are really, you know, really have a special sound.
Sure.
So that's, you know, I primarily focus on the lyrics and the melody and all the vocal performance.
Yeah, and Victoria, I agree. Vocal is probably the hardest instrument to master, and I might be biased on that too, but.
Well, I think it's I think it's a unique instrument, you know, and I think ultimately a song can't get past a really bad vocal. I mean, a few you could argue could. You can get a great vocal can get away with you know, something not being amazing, but you know, the vocal's ultimately going to drive, you know, a lot of the song experience. There are instrumentals that are unbelievably moving and stuff, but in this category, the vocal just has to be right. You know.
You know, I was going to say a corny joke when you said Portugal. I was going to say, does he feel it still? You know, but.
Dude, he's unbelievable. He's a wizard. Yeah. Oh yeah. Drink.
Tell us a little bit about the song we're going to hear in a couple of minutes here. What do you want us to take from it? What inspired it?
So this is, you know, I think a pretty epic song. I mean, I don't think I'm overstating it by saying that. It's generally about, you know, if you looked at it from a general perspective, it's an apocalyptic song. It's a song about the end of the world or our last days. But that's been done before in different ways. This is a unique song because I wanted, and a lot of this is inspired by this moment of life that we're living in now, with incredible change happening so rapidly around all of us. It inspired this a lot of people are thinking about extreme topics and things they haven't thought of before, So that magnitude of thinking and feeling is what inspired this song. But ultimately what makes it different from an apocalyptic standpoint is it's celebratory at the same time. So it's sort of anthematic, like it's not a meteor hitting us or something like that. It's humanity rising up to just sort of tear the entire system down in one glorious night of it all. If that makes sense. Yeah.
All
So
right,
that's
Michael. Let's take a listen to it, and then we'll come back and talk. Okay.
All right, cool, man.
All right, here we go. Check this out.
Where you gonna go, child? Where you gonna go, child? Where you gonna go when tomorrow comes? Where you gonna go, child? Deadlights in a fading city, dreamers in a crossfire wind, poets scared of what they are feeling, knowing something is about to begin. Old roads rising into the blackness, strapped heat from a smoking gun. Eyes stare like a bloodshot rocket. No one cares if we lost or we won. This is the night when it all comes down. This is the night it goes and comes around. This is the night the blood is on the crown. This is the night we burn it to the ground. Hate burns like the eyes of a demon. Love died 40 miles ago. This is a blaze of furious glory. This is a madman's opening show. Rising up just to tear down tomorrow. Nothing left of what's wrong and right. A devil smile in the eyes of children. We're all dying, so why not tonight? This is the night when it all comes down. This is the night it goes and comes around. This is the night the blood is on the crown. This is the night we burn it to the ground. This is the place, the ending race. An unmasked face, was it all a waste? Tonight's the night we take the crown. 8 billion blades strike the masters down. We've got tonight one final war. All that we are till we are no more. We've got tonight one final war. All that we are till we are no more. Where you gonna go to, child? Where you gonna go, child? Where you gonna go when tomorrow comes? Where you gonna go, child?
All right, Michael, that was a really cool song, man. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Oh my God, my pleasure. Thanks for playing it.
Oh, you're welcome. Do you have any new projects on the horizon? You releasing any new poetry or albums or anything you want to share with us?
Yeah, no, gosh, I can't write another poetry book. That almost killed me to write that. Honestly, it was so intense and so extreme, the work that went into it. But yes, I've been working on an album since July. I released the first single, which you just heard. This is the night, and I've got 6 of the songs. They're all out there as singles right now. The last 2 will be done in the next, call it 3 weeks, and those will be released, just on the album there. It's called American Poet, and it should be the first week of October. AmericanPoetMusic.com. So check it out. Check out the songs. Love to talk with you, anybody, about music. This is the kind of thing I love to talk about. So
cool. One of the questions I like to ask everybody on the show is about scams. Tell us about a scam you fell for so that we don't all fall for the same thing, so we can protect each other.
Man, I would say that every legitimate music platform out there is a certain percentage scam. So I don't really think I can call out any scams. I think there's scams on everything. There's not one platform out there that's not like corroded with scammers.
Yeah.
I think Facebook's probably one of the worst. Facebook, I used to think of Facebook as incredibly tight from a security and technology standpoint. But now, they have so many scammers that reach out via Messenger and whatnot. It's pretty crazy. So they're spammed up more than ever. But they also have some great viewers, and I think their ads are one of the best things you can do out there. I see the scammers everywhere. So I think you have to filter on every single platform you're on. Doesn't matter. It's hard for me to even call them out. I've had experiences with every single one. Yeah,
I think the Facebook thing that is the worst now is people telling you that they'll give you a couple $100. I even had one say they'll give me $3,000 for a post. And you respond, and of course you think, oh, yeah, I need to have access to your Facebook platform. I don't remember what it's called. And on Facebook, I don't know if you know this, but there's a way you can see if Facebook actually sent you a message. And you can actually see what's legit, what's not. And basically, these people are trying to just hack into your Facebook and take control of it.
Oh, of course. But Facebook, how could you take control of a Facebook account? It's got to be the most complex system ever. There's like 8 different modules. Some of them do the same things than the others. It's all crammed together. What you have to do with some of these scammers and the way that you'll get them to leave you alone, because I think a lot of them are connected. I've started like effing with them back, like really bad, right?
Yeah.
So I've been like playing their game up to a certain point, and then I start, telling them that, that I'm, that I've put a curse on them and that their karma's destroyed. It's pretty fun, man. Then they just stop.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's complete bullshit. And you say this, but I'm pretty much a nerd and a techie, and I've pretty much never gotten hacked. I don't click on links. I don't fall for phishing. I have all this stuff. Like 2 years ago, my Twitter got hacked somehow. No clue how, because I don't click on anything.
Yep.
About a month ago, my Facebook got hacked, and I was with Facebook support. It took me about 3 days, even though proving, here's my bank account, here's to get my account back.
They don't care.
Yeah, it was insane.
And there's no one to talk to, dude. It doesn't. It's a joke. So I'll tell you the worst horror story. This is gonna blow your mind. I'll do it real quick. So Instagram, right? I had after when I had my poetry book, I had like a very popular poetry blog on Instagram. I had like 11,000 followers on it, right?
Wow.
And it was built up for so. One day, my wife reaches out to me. She's like, "Your Instagram account's gone." I'm like, "Excuse me?" She's like, "It's just gone." I'm like, all right, well, something's wrong. It's a glitch. I come back. I can't log in. Passwords, everything's gone. It's just gone. Right? So I reach out to Instagram. Finally, I get someone on like a chatbot, and they tell me to take a picture with today's date to prove that it's me sending it. I sent that in. Never heard from them again. Never got my account back. Had to start all over.
What? That's insane.
Yep. Can't get anyone. Nobody cares.
So
I think I might have got swept up in like, and honestly, my work, I did a lot of edgy stuff, and some of it like touched on some hot button political type of stuff. And I think I might have gotten swept out by Instagram themselves. I just don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. But there's no one to complain to and no one cares.
Well, with my situation, I was like, well, listen, I have a complex password. I have two-factor authentication.
Yeah, of course.
My cell
Which is a
phone.
pain
I'm
in the
like,
ass.
how does someone even get my account? And they could never explain it to me. And again, I jumped through hoops to prove it was my account.
Sure. They pass you around and good luck. Yeah, you just get lost in the system. So, I think if you have a big problem, you just, you take it as far as you can and you just move on and take it as a sign.
And that's why I think one of the key things that I started focusing on about a year or two ago is I pretty much stopped all advertising and I just focus on my email list and just getting direct connections and engagement. And I don't spend really anything trying to get people to like me and share me. And
Nope.
Because I paid on Facebook and Twitter themselves, and it just got me a bunch of fake followers that are never going to listen to my music, buy it, and it just was worthless in my opinion.
100%. So it's you got to find the authentic relationships and go deep with them instead of trying to go wide, because there's just so much garbage. It's overloaded. The systems are just crammed full of it.
Do you have any apps on your phone that you can't live without?
Yeah, my little pro recorder. That's probably my most important app. I use it all the time because I develop a lot of my songs start out as sort of the hook of the song and build from there, and the inspiration comes at odd times. So I'm constantly leaving little voice memos on pro recorder there to build out later when I can get I'm home and in the studio. So
yeah.
That's probably the most important thing, to have that and just and my note app, which is crammed full. I've got no storage left on everything. I probably have 30 to 35 songs in motion right now. 10 that are finished, 15 that are 80%, some that are just started, and it's just out of control. I all my storage stuff, it's nuts. I've been writing a lot.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite person that you follow on Twitter?
I'm going to be honest with you. I do not utilize Twitter.
How about Instagram? You back on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm more into Instagram. There's a bunch of poets that I follow. In particular, I like to. Let me try to think for a second. Have you ever done it? Seen any of the really good Instagram poetry that's out there?
I've seen a few. I mean, I can't say there's a specific person that comes to mind, but I see stuff.
There's a girl named Eve Adams. She's wonderful. So if you want to see some really cool, very, I'd call it very high level performance poetry and whatnot, check her stuff out. She's awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Any hidden talents or strange hobbies you want to admit to?
Strange hobbies. I mean, my life is so incredibly bizarre. I think compared to the normal life that you'd put in quotes, I mean, we're all living in bizarre times, but I'm just, I'm a bit of a hermit, to be honest with you. And I don't, I like to, when I create alone, and it's a very intense experience for me. And, it takes hours, and I stay up and I kill myself with it. I really do. And I can't stop. It's feverish. And it drives me pretty crazy. So, hidden talents, I think, my ability to live in such odd hours and still function with 3 children. I think that's pretty good. I think that's a very, very good talent, to be able to do this and all the family stuff at the same time. I have a wonderful family, 3 boys, and here's a kind of a cool fact. Those 3 boys are actually, they're national junior tennis players, some of the best junior tennis players in the country, the 3 of them. Yeah. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about your stuff, but tell us about your contact information. Where can people stream your stuff, buy it, check you out?
Yeah, please. Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you another funny thing. This is just because this is my first, my first album and whatnot. And the response has been unbelievable. It's really been cool. So, but the response has come a little quicker than my ability to build out sort of the infrastructure of all of this. But AmericanPoetMusic.com, if you go to that site, I think that's the best, or Michael Jones Musician on Facebook. Those are probably the two primary that I keep the most up to date. All of the music is available to stream, obviously on Apple Music, Amazon, all that. You can get it on any of the iTunes products. You can get it on Spotify. So it's available to stream at all the places that you would stream.
Cool, Michael.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite 80s jam?
Oh, I love 80s music. Favorite 80s jam? Oh man, let me think. So if I would, are we talking hair metal, hair band kind of thing?
Whatever you want, man.
All right. Well, I know it's kind of second part of the 80s and not synthesizer 80 kind of stuff, but I was a huge Guns N' Roses fan. So Guns N' Roses was my absolute, favorite first band. And that was when I was in middle school. And the song that I always loved was, you're familiar with them, obviously?
Yeah,
Appetite
absolutely.
for Destruction?
Yeah.
Great. I still think probably one of the greatest rock and roll albums ever made. I'm just a big fan of songs like Night Train.
Yeah.
I love that song. And then when I think about the 80s, I mean, this is an 80s thing, but you wouldn't think of it in under 80s premise. Maybe it's like late 70s, early 80s is the music that really opened me up. The first album was Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Sure. Classic.
I don't know. And I am a big Deadhead. So I've been, and Fish as well. So I've seen probably 35, 40 Fish shows. I really enjoyed sort of the jam band musical experience. Only got to see Jerry Garcia play once, but he's sort of my musical idol.
Yeah.
And to me, he sort of was the most magical figure in American music. Bob Dylan, obviously, right there. But those are some of the really inspirational things that come to mind.
I don't know if you've caught the Netflix documentary. It was really cool, showing a lot of Jerry Garcia, the footage, a lot of the, I don't remember what it was called, but it was a great documentary.
There's a couple, yeah. There's a Long Strange Trip, I think is maybe the one you're talking about.
Yeah, maybe that was
Yeah, it's really good. It came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
That they've got a lot of the stuff they pulled out of the archives. I've seen The Dead, in all the versions with, Mickey Hart and Bob Weir. I've seen Bob in a lot of different variations, Rat Dog. And there's just something about those shows, the concerts, the parking lot experience, that I always just got a kick out of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, my friend, last question before we move on for tonight. What's the funniest thing that's happened to you on stage in your entire career?
Funniest, all right. This was painful. It sort of scarred into me. So I'd say 8th grade. I've got the lead role in this was not a musical, it was a drama, right? So I had a ton of lines. It took me months to memorize them. I'm up there. One of the other guys, right, he was just this jittery guy that you always were a little nervous around him. He comes on stage and he has 2 pages of lines in this thing. He forgets all of them. Okay? Now we're in a packed house, and it was, you're a kid too. You've got like friends there. It's like, this is set up for the most embarrassing thing of all time. So this guy forgets there's like 3 other 4 people on stage with me at the same time. And at that moment, we had to ad lib, and somehow we pulled it off, at least in a passing enough way that people got a chuckle out of it. But it was a moment that scarred into me. That's that without a net moment we were talking about.
Wasn't there a teacher in the front whispering the words at him or throwing help his way?
They were trying, but this kid had a full-on mental breakdown on the stage.
Oh, all right. I hear ya.
It was just jitters and shaking and making sounds.
Yeah.
So good times, but yeah,
that's a great story. It was wonderful having you on the show. I want to thank you for being on tonight.
No, I really enjoyed it. I love talking, and I appreciate you having me on the show very much. It's really well done. The interview's fantastic, and anytime you want to talk again, just let me know.
Yeah, be happy to, Michael. Anytime, man. As you release more songs or your album, let us know. We'll be happy to have you on the show again.
Yeah, lots coming out, and love, and be safe to you, your family, everybody.
Thank you, you too. So I want to thank Michael for being on the show tonight, and I want to thank everyone out there who listened tonight and tuned in. I know your time is precious, and I thank you for spending some of it with us tonight. Thank you for listening. I hope everyone's unique story gets heard around the world. My name is Sarantos, and please join me every Tuesday night to hear other amazing artists share their fascinating behind-the-scenes stories right here at the Songwriter Show. And tonight, I'm going to leave you with a song that just came out yesterday called Written on My Stone. One day I was thinking about my dad. My dad was the hardest working person I've ever met in my life. All he did was work. And then I started thinking about my own life, how I'm so much like my dad. Of course you want to emulate your heroes. As I thought about how I too probably haven't enjoyed my life as much as I could because I'm a workaholic, I thought about how time flies by with the blink of an eye. I thought about how my dad died without having truly gotten out of life what he deserved. And then I thought about how I'm just like him. There was a sadness in the air that lingered, and then I wrote the song. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you next Tuesday night. Have a great night, everyone. I love you guys.
Driving my trusty old pickup, slick back road, slow sun above, dial says it's hot, not in my gut, nasty naggy cramp, can't get back up, another one of those days, hot damage and taste, mind caught in a maze, and dreaming of escape. One day when I drop, I truly believe it'll be written on my stone. These are the words you'll see. Here lies a simple man, worked hard to be all he can. He lived a pretty long life, did more than a few things right. Humble man who never quit, work was all he ever did. He was the hardest working son of a bitch, work was all he ever did. Back when joystick, mistakes were so few, things were easy, speedy, freaking you. I bought a few laughs, maps to all I knew. I knew young love was unfair too. Now defeat hit across my face, heart scared of the race, mind scared of the pace. All the dreaming lets me escape. One day when I drop, I truly believe it'll be written on my stone. These are the words you'll see. Here lies a simple man, worked hard to be all he can. He lived a pretty long life, did more than a few things right. Humble man who never quit, work was all he ever did. He was the hardest working son of a bitch, work was all he ever did. was the hardest working son of a bitch. No, he was. Work was all he ever did. Written on his stone, written on my stone. These words will be my own, written on my stone. Me and my words, together and alone. Written on my stone, written on my stone. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to The Songwriter Show. To keep the momentum going, head over to www.songwritershow.com and join our free music community of artists, songwriters, and producers. That's www.songwritershow.com.
Thank you for choosing Pesmo Radio.